Have you ever wanted to follow through like the pros do on tour with their forehands? Well, stay tuned. We'll dive into all these cool finishes right now. Hi, it's Chris Lewitt, top American junior coach and coach to many #1 juniors in the United States. Let's talk about the forehand, all these unique finishes, and I'm sure you've got some questions about it. I'll try to clarify what's going on with the technique and share with you how to learn these cool skills. Okay, let's start out with kind of a bang, which this is the wild one. This is the Alcaraz, this is the Nadal, and I call it the Lasso. The racket goes around the head like a normal follow through to the shoulder or just above the left shoulder, but then it doesn't stop there. It keeps going around the world like a lasso. So like a cowboy or cowgirl goes around here. Stay relaxed, try not to hit yourself in the head. The racket comes out on this side, just like this, and then comes back to the ready position. So it's really cool. It's a continuous helicopter action, and the racket comes all the way around the head. I'll show you from this side. Go around, all the way around the head, looping around. It's a full lasso. Racket comes out on this side, which looks really bizarre. But many pros do this now, sometimes up to 50% of the time on their shots, which is remarkable. Alcaraz is a great example, #1 in the world. And then the racket comes back around, right back to the ready position. So there's no more stopping at the end, either catching here. Standard finishes come to the left shoulder, to the side of the shoulder, to the bicep, to the elbow. That's not what this video is really about. This is about the cool stuff. So what a lot of pros do now, this has become an incredible phenomenon on the pro tour, is they'll just accelerate, and after the ball's gone, the deceleration phase will just continue onward around the head, and slowing down, right back into the ready position, so they're just back where they started. And my theory is this is just the pros feel more comfortable doing this. Because they're swinging so fast nowadays, the racket speed is incredibly high, that this has become, and this could become the style for the majority of forehands down the road. As bizarre as it looks, as strange as it may seem, 20 years ago, I would never have taught this to any of my students. And now you see many players doing this. They come here and around. That's what it looks like from the back. They're here and around. The racket comes out on this side, which looks crazy. Look at the position of my arm here. And back to the ready position. Arm run to the side. And it's going to come here. You have to have a very relaxed shoulder, relaxed elbow, relaxed wrist. And you loop around. Try not to hit yourself in the head. Try not to bang here. You go around. And let the momentum of the racket take it full circle above like a helicopter. Comes out on this side, very relaxed, and right back to the ready position. I don't know if there's any benefit besides the comfort and having a longer pathway for deceleration. There's some hypotheses out there that you may be able to get a little more topspin with this swing. I don't know for sure. There's no scientific studies on that, and this is a very new phenomenon on the pro tour, very new technique where players are doing this. I do see it when players are moving out wide, and that's why we're here in the out wide area. When players typically get a high ball and they're thinking more shape, you tend to see that reverse circular lasso type swing on balls that are rising up in the strike zone. So there'd be a ball like up here. And you tend not to see it on the low balls. On low balls, you tend to see other types of reverses, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But what do you guys think? It's kind of cool. Basically, if you run to the side, or if you're swinging very fast and you don't feel comfortable stopping here, you have the freedom to take this ball and just go all the way around. And it feels pretty good. Once you get over the kind of the bizarre aspect of it, because it looks so different, it feels pretty good rather than actually stopping the swing. So instead of trying to accelerate and then stop, why not just let the racket go all the way around 360 and come back to where it started? And that's basically what Nadal started back in the day, and now Alcaraz and so many top pros use this. And my feeling is this is not when they're late. So I'm here, I'm not late, I'm just swinging fast, and the racket's coming around. You know, I'm not swinging full speed right now, just to demo with you guys, but I'm gonna go out. Maybe the ball's a little high. Back to where I started. It feels pretty good. I don't have to go like this now. I can just go up and around. And for me, coming from an era where everybody followed through to the shoulder, it's pretty wild. But I have to tell you, it feels pretty comfortable. It feels smooth. There's a long pathway to decelerate. One thing that's a little weird is when the racket crosses my eyes, you know, rather than following through here where the racket, all of the arm structure and the racket is below my eyes, below my chin, the racket actually comes, the arm, for a brief moment I'm blinded here, but it happens so fast it doesn't seem to bother guys on tour. So that's the reverse, that's the lasso. It's pretty cool. Let me know what you think. So the second really cool finish that I think is absolutely essential, I'm not sure the lasso is essential for most players unless you're generating like an incredible amount of racket speed. I'm not sure you need to do the lasso, even though it's really awesome, albeit wild. The hook is basically where you come up on the same side of your body and you reverse the swing. It's another reverse type of finish, but it is when you're late. So it's very, very useful for situations where the ball comes in, maybe the ball comes fast or the ball comes to the side and you're running and you're late and you have to come vertical and make a true reverse rather than going, it's not going around. It's not going out and around like the lasso. It's coming much more vertically. There may be a little bicep contraction here and there's a strong vertical component here. And the racket typically will finish over the head, kind of like making a hat here with your hand, or sometimes it's kind of like making a halo over your head here. So that's kind of how I think about it. But this is when you're late. So you're in here, you're a little bit late, and you're going to come up. You're going to come vertical. You're going to whip your wrist and your elbow upwards. So there's going to be more of an angle here in your elbow. Boom. And it really helps to put extra topspin on the ball, and it helps you adjust and control balls that are late in your hitting zone. So it looks kind of like, that's how I describe it. That's kind of how it looks. And with the ball, let's say the ball's coming in a little late, you can still spin it. You don't have to go all the way around. And there are pros combining like combinations of both. You see a lot of interesting, you know, every pro's a little different, idiosyncratic. Every pro has a slightly different style. You might see some combos of like vertical, reverse, and lasso, or you might see part lasso and then stop here, or rather than the full lasso, and you might see partial hooks here. You might see hooks that kind of like combine with the lasso, like a hybrid hook lasso, but you know, you see all these sort of trends in between. But basically this one I think you should learn at all levels, especially high level, but particularly recreational level or juniors. You get a ball coming in, these they could be low, could be high, and you're going to come up and finish with this bent elbow position here, and you're going to hook it. Basically you get caught late and you can still save it. Maybe you could even curve it a little bit. This is, if you swing very fast on the outside edge, you can get diagonal spin. For example, you can use this type of hook shot to add extra topspin and side spin and curve a ball diagonally, like around the net post, or you see highlight shots that are like down the line shots. Rafa was really famous for using his lefty hook, and he would come up more vertically and finish abruptly and curve the ball around the, down the line around the net person's outstretched volley arm. So, that's another option here. The hook can help you literally hook around the outside of the ball and curve it, or the hook can be used when you're late and you need to create like a defensive spinny shot. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I caught it on the edge. I got a little bit of diagonal spin. If I swing faster and faster, I can get even more diagonal spin and really curve it. But basically that ball had a nice shape to it. Because I'm lifting up, typically the ball has shape, although it is possible to use a hook on shorter balls. I did want to go over that later. But basically I get the balls a little bit late in my hitting zone. I don't want to try to force and drive through it, which is a big mistake. I want to come vertical and really shape that thing and get myself out of trouble. I almost curved that one. All right, so this is vertical, outside edge of the ball. You're whipping the racket head through. Can be here, depending on where your impact point is, could be here. Got a lot of different options here. And this is when you're not able to meet the ball properly in front, you can still create a lot of spin and height and get yourself out of trouble. I think that's the main purpose here. Another really cool follow through that you'd never see back in the day, at least not from the majority of players. And people say, oh, people used to do this in the 70s and way back when. Laver used to do this, and Borg, and even pre-Laver, going back to Tilden, players used to play with these kind of swings. And that's true, but not true. I mean, a very small percentage of players maybe did that, but you have to look at the majority of players. Back in the 70s, 80s, the majority of players did not do these types of swings, especially the lasso. So people say, oh, it's always been like that. I mean, maybe for the rare exception of players, the difference is now so many players, the majority of players are using these techniques. The majority of players are doing these fancy finishes, unique finishes, and that's the difference. It's more about the percentage, the ratio of players who are doing this versus in the years past, because that's really what's changed, is that you have this is like the predominant style of follow-throughs now that you see. And there's a much higher ratio of these follow-throughs compared to regular follow-throughs, as in the old days. That's basically that's what I'd like to say about that, because I always get comments, people saying, oh, everyone used to do this, and they'll show me a clip of Laver or Borg or whatever, and that's true, but most players on tour didn't do that back in the day. You know what I'm saying? This one is really cool. So you go reverse, but you don't come up like a hook. You do hook, you partially come vertical, let's say, and then the racket flares back in a wrist extension. It's kind of cool. And you see this sometimes. I don't know what it does for players, but it's very cool. Players are loose and fluid, and sometimes they're coming up and just coming back. So they're not just coming up here, like they're not late and trying to hook it, which is kind of a similar variation, but they're kind of on time, and they're going to come here and back. You see Djokovic sometimes does this. So basically this is another variation of reverse. You're not coming up here and hooking with your wrist and elbow. You're coming up here and reversing back to where the strings are flat like a platter. So it's kind of like that movement. Yeah, that was a good one. That curved in. It was nice low spin. You're not trying to get high spin. These are usually shots where you're inside the court, maybe attacking a low ball. So you're not trying to go up high like that, reversing. You're reversing and laying back, and the ball's going a little lower. You have to have a real flexible wrist, real flexible arm, loose arm structure here, and the ball, you'll go up and back. And you won't even do like a traditional follow through here, although you could do that. So that's the mystery for me, because I can hit that same shot with a regular follow through. So why do some guys do that? Like what's the logic? What's the rationale? You have to, sometimes the pros don't even know what they're doing. They're in the middle of the battle there, and they're just making the shot, and it's all improvised, and they're high level athletes, and they're they have high levels of mobility, high levels of racket speed, and they just doing cool instinctive things. But this maybe could add a little spin here. You can get, if it's low, you could maybe get a little more vertical here. Something like that. It's kind of cool. But I can watch. I can hit that same shot, and I can just windshield wiper over. I can do that too. It feels pretty good. I'm not sure that this is. This is one of the mysteries of pro technique. Why do that when I can do this? For me, I feel I can do both on that shot. So the other variation I think for sure you got to learn is how to deal with low balls. And sometimes on a low ball, you just abbreviate the finish and you come vertical. It may not even lay back like before. You may want to just hook and stop. Like you may have a ball here and you just come up and stop. You may want to hook a ball cross court. Like I don't know if you can see that red cone there. You come here and you may just want to hook, kind of something like that. A lot of players will stop and like that's where the one previously comes from. You're going to see different abbreviated finishes on low balls. Anytime you have a low ball, you may need to just flick up and abbreviate the finish. Maybe something like that. Doesn't have to be that. Could be like that. Could be like that. You know, I want to go cross court. Maybe I'm got a tricky low ball and I want to hook the ball across. You see that? Could be that. Could be that. Could be here. If maybe I'm a little later, I'm going out wide. Could be something like that, right? So I'm trying to get extra spin, and I'm trying to get the outside edge of the ball, maybe even create some diagonal spin on a low ball or a tricky wide shot. So that's, I think, critical to learn how to improvise when the ball is low. The ball's down here. I don't know what I want to do with it, and I got to get it up and over, and then dip it down. And most people on low balls, it's a disaster. Like they're too tight and they hit through it too much. Basically, these types of unique finishes and flares allow you, if you're loose with your wrist and your arm, they allow you to improvise and create spinny shots from difficult situations, and that can help you out a lot. So I definitely recommend learning how to do abbreviated hooks here. It feels weird to stop the racket abruptly here, but these are like short little, kind of like short game shots in golf, and you need a special upward vertical swings, loose wrist, loose arm structure, and you need to, in these kind of up close to the net areas where you have low tricky shots, you have to improvise. You have to do some type of improv to make the ball go in. That's what the pros do. What most players get into trouble is they come up here and they try to do their full normal swings with normal follow-throughs and normal rotations. Even the rotation is not really here. If you notice, I'm not even really using my hips that much. I'm just mainly creating the energy from my shoulder, maybe a little bit of rotation, but not much. And I'm using very short abbreviated finishes. And this is one of the secrets to dealing with low shots. Notice when you're in these situations, you don't come up and around like the full power swings from before. You're never going to see up close in the low ball. You're not going to see stuff like this. At least I haven't seen stuff like that. But I mean, check it out from yourself. You're going to see these long round finishes from power shots that are way back from the baseline where players are trying to create height and shape and spin. Up close, you're going to see a lot more of these abbreviated short little hook finishes and vertical reverse finishes. Guys, some important training tips. What I would recommend is to start out close to the net, maybe with a ball machine or even just self-tossing like I've been showing you. Self-tossing is a great way to just work on the movement. I like to choke up on the racket so it feels lighter, almost like a mini tennis racket. So you're making the lever shorter and you're making the racket a bit lighter in your hand. It makes it a little easier to whip it around, and you have less of a chance of knocking yourself in the head, which can happen. I've seen players do that when they're trying to experiment with this. So be careful. Don't knock yourself out. Don't knock yourself in the head. But I would start with a lot of shadowing just to I still believe in shadowing, just going through the motoric action, Can practice the lasso, try to make sure you have good range of motion. You have to have a pretty good range of motion in your shoulder. You have to have good scapular mobility to be able to go up and around. And then you have to have good wrist mobility. I've made another video talking about wrist mobility, how important that is for the forehand, getting lag and things like that. So practice without the ball and then add in the ball when you're ready. I would start with some hand tossing, nice and easy, and work on the different finishes there. And do everything slow. Even though this is designed to be followed through on very fast accelerations, where there's a lot of racket head speed and you need a long pathway to decelerate the racket, start slow. You don't want to hit yourself in the head. You don't want to tighten up and make the, it shouldn't look tight and choppy. It shouldn't look forced or abrupt. The movement should flow around your body and then around your head, and then you should come right back to the start, to the ready position. So I kind of start up close, and then after you do your, some drills, maybe ball machine or hand feeding, I would practice lightly with the partner and just, work on light hits around your head. I would also work on the hooks where you come straight up and just get the movements into your muscle memory, and then start out slow in mini tennis and then kind of work your way back. But the mistake would be to start hitting really hard and trying to do it at full speed like the pros do. I definitely start in the short court, start with something up close, work on the two basic ones. Remember, you have the hook, which is for when you're late. When you're late, you hook. Or sometimes when it's low. Sometimes when it's low, you hook. Or this is basically like a reverse. So try to know what you're working on. Low balls, late balls. You're going to come up more vertically. That's kind of a hooking action. And then on regular balls where you have a normal contact point, that's where you do the lasso. So you don't do the lasso when you're late. The lasso is not for late. The hook is for when you're late and pressed. And the lasso is for when you're swinging fast, maybe you want to lift the ball with a little more topspin action. We're not sure if it gives you more topspin action, but certainly when it's a fast swing with a pretty standard contact point, and it's just, instead of following through normally, just going to let that thing ride around your head. Right, so it's pretty cool. That's how I'd work on it. Lots of shadow swings, choke up on the racket, make the racket whippy, make sure your wrist is loose, make sure your shoulder and your scaps are all mobile, ready to go, and then practice that, and be careful, don't knock yourself out. Guys, I hope you enjoyed these cool forehand techniques and forehand finishes. If you like this video, please check out my other forehand video right here. You're gonna love it. All right, see you next time.